Hey guys, it's Mrs. Shevchek here. Since I'm not here again today, what we're going to do is we're just going to work through a couple of the problems from the lesson together. So while you're watching this on the board, I'd like you to work on these problems on your iPads. So if you haven't already, go into Schoology and download Similar Figures Day 2, Challenging Figures, and that can be found in the Unit 4 in class lessons. So pause if you need to go grab that quick, and then let's watch this as a class. And you can go ahead and we'll skip the warm-up on this one today, and we're going to jump right into our first new problem. All right, page 2 in this file has this problem on it. So it tells us to find the length of each side marked with the variable. The new part here, the thing that we haven't been really doing lately, is rounding it to the nearest tenth. And you'll notice that these are both rectangles, but we've got the second one is turned. So what I'm going to have you guys doing today when you're working is making sure that you're highlighting your corresponding sides first. Okay, so I see that 12, my short side, matches up with 8, my short side, on that other figure. And then I see 17 on my big figure, the tall side of my big figure, matches up with M on my smaller figure. So that figure is rotated, so we just want to make sure we're paying attention to that when we set up our proportion. The rest of this is just like we've been doing. So I'm going to start with, on mine I'm going to do 12 over 8. So I'll do the red over the red equals, and then I'm going to do the green over the green, so 17 over M. I'm going to grab my calculator here and solve this. 17 times 8 divided by 12, and I get an answer of M equals 11.3 repeating. Since this does tell us to round to the nearest tenth, which is what you'll have to be doing on your homework tonight, I'm going to do that right now. I'm just going to write 11.3 without the repeating symbol, just because that's to the nearest tenth. All right, when you're ready, let's go to page 3 and start this problem. It tells us again to find the length of each side marked with the variable, round to the nearest tenth. It also asks us to highlight our corresponding sides first. You'll notice this one looks a little tricky because we have two variables. We've got an x and we have a y. Okay, and the other thing that's pretty confusing on this one sometimes is the fact that we've got our triangles kind of flipped around. So what I like to do first, and this part's kind of optional, but I recommend it, is I'm going to redraw both of my figures so that they are facing in the same direction. So what that looks like is I'm going to take my big right triangle. I see they're both right triangles, right? So they're both kind of looking like this. I'm going to put my right angle there. And then I can kind of see on my taller figure, this bottom part, the short part connected to my right angle, is 8.5. So I'm going to label that here. And then the tall part, the height, right, coming out of my 90-degree angle is 12.8. Okay, and so then that leaves the slanted piece here as our x. And I'm just going to do that in red, so I remember that's what I'm looking for. And then on my smaller triangle, it's a little easier to see. I've got, again, the short side next to the 90-degree angle. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write 3.7 on my redrawing over there. This tall side is y, so I'm going to put y there, and then the slanted side, maybe I'll use green for this one, is my 6.7. No, I won't. Okay, sorry, my sketch is a little bit off there, but you get the idea that if we can redraw it, we can easily match up our sides. And I'm going to do the same thing that we did before where we highlight our corresponding sides. So now I have 8.5 and 3.7, those match up. And then I've got my x with my 6.7, and then let's do blue here for the tall side, 12.8, and y. Okay, now that lets us just make sure that we're using the same corresponding sides while we set up our proportions. All right, so now you'll notice on this figure we've got those two variables we're looking for, and I don't think we've done any of these yet this year. So we're looking for x and we're looking for y. what we're going to do here, guys, is just let's ignore one of the sides for a minute and just solve for just x or just y. So what that looks like is, let's say we know that the green part there is 8.5 and 3.7. So I'm going to set up the ratio that we know right there for our green sides, right? We've got 8.5 over 3.7 equals, so now if I want to solve for x first, I'm going to just look at my reds and I'm ignoring the blue for a sec. So equals x over 6.7. Okay, and then when I solve that proportion, you can grab your calculators and do it with me. I do 8.5 times 6.7 divided by 3.7, and I get x equals 15.391, and it kind of keeps going. But it asks us again to round to the nearest tenth, so that would be x equals 15.4. Okay, but we still have a y over here to solve for, so what we do now is we go back in, start with the original proportion, or the original ratio that we knew, which was our green ones, right? We had 8.5 over 3.7, so our green sides. And now we'll set that equal to, we're looking for our y over here, right, our blue sides. So we're going to go back to the big figure because that's where we started, and do 12.8 over y. So in the separate proportion, we didn't even have to look at the red side, at those x's. Again, I solve it, 12.8 times 3.7 divided by 8.5, and I find out that y equals 5.5717, keeps going kind of. So I'm going to round that to the nearest tenth. Y equals 5.6. Okay, so when you see similar figures where we have like two sides missing, what works is to write two separate proportions, only focusing on two of the sides at a time. You'll see one or two of these on your homework tonight, so I wanted to make sure that we did one together. Okay, there's just two more that we're going to look at as a class. We're not going to do the whole process of this one, I'm just going to get you started. So on this one you see that we have, it looks like just one big triangle, right? So maybe you're looking at this saying, where are my similar figures? But when you see a triangle here, within a triangle, what can be helpful is to just redraw both figures. So yes, we've got this big triangle here, right? So I'm going to just kind of sketch that over here. The side is x, the base is 8. Okay, but within that triangle we have a smaller one. I'm going to do that one in green. Okay, and the bottom of that one is 3, then this side here is 5. Okay, now by breaking it up like that, we're doing exactly what we were doing the last couple of days. Okay, this part's not any different. It's just a matter of identifying that there are two triangles within that shape. I'm going to have you go ahead and work through this problem on your own. And then once you have an answer, raise your hand, maybe check with your partner, see if you guys agree, and then we'll move on. Alright, one last example here. This is another one that sometimes gets people stuck. You can see you've got two different triangles, and it might not be easy to identify the corresponding sides with the way that it is. So what I like to do again is highlight those corresponding sides. So it's up to you how you kind of do it, but for me I'm looking, and I'll start with my slanted side here. Like that slanted side 6, it's across from this 90-degree angle, right? So I see this is a 90-degree angle, the one across from it, this slanted one here, is my y. So those are my two green sides. And then let's maybe do, this side is shorter, it's the shorter side coming out of my 90-degree angle, so this one is my shorter side coming out of the 90-degree angle, and then this is my long side connected to the 90-degree angle, and so is that one. Okay, so by highlighting our corresponding sides, we can more easily match up what we're looking for here. Okay, again, when I start my proportions, I like to always start with the ratios that we know. So I'm going to do 8 over 20, right? My blue over my blue. And now we have to decide, well, do we want to solve for x first, or do we want to solve for y first? I'm going to do x, and I see that I have, if I started with 8 on the smaller figure first, then I have to start with 2 on the smaller figure first, and then I can do the x from my bigger figure next. So 8 over 20 equals 2 over x. And when I solve that, I get x equals 5. Alright, and now we can set up a separate proportion to find our green, our y. Again, I'm starting with my 8 over 20. This time I'm going to set it equal to the green side, so 6 over y. Again, we're using two proportions to solve this problem. So we have 20 times 6 divided by 8, and I have y equals 15. So on this problem, x equals 5, y equals 15, and we are finished. Alright, thanks for your attention through those couple of problems. This video will be saved in Schoology so that you can go back and rewatch any that you might need to. But what I'd like you guys to do now is try the next two problems in the file. So this blue one with the triangle within the triangle, and then this white one here. So these are page 6 and 7 in your file, just to make sure you have the hang of it before you start on your homework. I will leave the answers for these hanging on the board for you. You can check and see how you did. Once you feel like you've got it, you can go ahead and start on your homework, which is posted in Schoology. It's a worksheet called How Do You Make Chicken Napoleon? It's a puzzler. And what I'd like you guys to do for this one is make sure that you're highlighting your corresponding sides. Okay, you will be doing this in Notability, so you have the option to use all the colors. Please, please, please use that tool to help you, because a lot of the figures are going to be twisted around and flipped, and that's usually where people kind of get stumped. Make sure that you're showing all your work on paper, so you're setting up proportions for each of them. Showing your work clearly, make it numbered, things like that. And also, you guys, big point I have to make here, help each other, please. Okay, with me not being there today, I know that you guys, a lot of you guys understand how to do this really well. Help each other out so that no one's kind of struggling through this. If you're having questions, check with each other. You can email me, let me know. We'll definitely go back through questions that you have on Monday when I return. And I hope you have a good rest of the day and a good weekend. Thanks for watching.